Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Fairfax Sports Report. My name is Greg Wyshynski of the Connection Newspapers. BJ Cooper rules the Connection Newspapers. Jeff Graham of the Connection Newspapers. I'm as sick as a dog. Do you hear my voice? It sounds like I swallowed a kitten, and it's just stuck in my throat. I'm probably not going to make it through the show, but I'm going to try. For this guy right here, for BJ, because he wants me to try.
He's my man.
I wasn't here.
You should be commended for fighting through it.
Thank you. You know, I wasn't here last week, and I might have missed the memo when we all joined the Levi's 501 Denim Patrol.
Yes, actually.
I wore my grandpa sweater. I didn't know.
It's all right.
All right.
Next
That shirt's actually older than these, so.
I think you're probably right. All right. Maybe next week. All right. Before we start the fun and games, let's thank the folks that make this show possible every single week. We are, of course, talking about the Underwriters. CCI screen printing for all your screen printing needs, 703-978-0257. And Quality Care Ford Service Center, servicing all makes and models, 703-383-6299. If at any point you hear coughing, I'm telling you and the viewers at home, it's me. Just want to let you know that there isn't a cough button up here. So there's a very good chance that you'll be making some very cogent point about Oakton basketball, and right when you're about to hit the crescendo, I'm like, blah!
He's got a six-pack of Tussin waiting in the back.
I need to rub that Tussin into the bone.
Hey, we'd rather have a sick Wyshynski than not one at all. This place almost fell apart last week.
That's tugging on the heartstrings right there.
We're glad to have you back, man. Welcome back.
On the heartstrings. All right. Before we get going with some topics and agendas and all that good stuff, let's talk about some news and notes from around the northern region. First of all, a story that I know you, BJ, were quite passionate about last week. House Bill 1368, and its fate has been determined.
Yeah, let me tell you a little story about a House bill called 1368.
Please do.
We talked about it last week on the show, and 1368 was trying to, well, basically kill all sports in Virginia. And the way it would have done that is you wouldn't have been able to play sports on a field which was within 65 yards of a residence
Because the lights.
Because the lights and the noise, and people want to sleep, and that's understandable. But also, what's understandable is when you move into a house and it's by a field, you have to expect those sorts of things. And we heard a lot of backlash, we heard a lot of opinion, we heard a lot of positive, negative. A lot of people, it basically started a fire, and people, they heard it. The representatives heard it. Representative of Fairfax, Dave Albo, basically put through a motion that was upheld unanimously to kill House Bill 1368, which would have kept kids from playing sports on a field, or adults even, adult softball, that sort of thing, from 6 p.m. to 8 a.m. in the morning and on Sundays, which would have basically killed sports.
Right.
So we're glad to see that. We get to keep our jobs because it would have given us a lot of trouble. But, it was good to see that our government got their head straight.
And we don't play politics on the show very often. I will say that I lean Democrat when I vote, and I see that the gentleman who proposed House Bill 1368 originally was Delegate Robert D. Hull, a Democrat from the 38th District.
Right, of Northern Virginia, which is in Falls Church. Actually played baseball around here growing up, had some kids playing baseball around here, was on the Park Authority Board. Somebody that probably should have known better and claimed that he put this through on request by one of his constituents. That's just not a good enough answer, for putting something through. You don't put everything through that comes across your desk. And I think the call was heard. Parents went nuts, coaches went nuts, leagues went nuts, and that thing was killed quicker than.
And I'm
anything.
glad the president addressed it in his speech last night. He said, it didn't get through, and we're going to move on.
Democrats are we like to help. We're helpers by our nature. Some of us have that little chip in the brain that allows for common sense, and as 1368 would show, some of us don't.
Yeah.
I'm glad this thing was said and done within like a 2-week span.
Yeah.
Because that's just insanity.
Yeah, I was kind of upset that it was done so quickly because it kind of took away some more ammo, some more material for the paper. I mean, I had a great time writing a column about it last week. I'm sure you guys read it, but it was a good time. It was fun to make fun of it. Nobody knew. Everybody knew it wasn't going anywhere, and it was just a matter of time. And even the delegate himself, I spoke to him on the phone. He said he wouldn't even support it. So it was kind of it was just something fun to keep those guys going in the off season.
It was humorous.
There you go. Lots of laughs. The other news that we want to talk about before we get to the topics at hand, the Northern Region Council met this week at Marshall High School, and it was sort of a middle of the road kind of meeting. Not a whole lot of big news coming out of the meeting. A couple things to look for though. Redistricting may be revisited yet again here in the northern region. There are a lot of people who want to align the 6s and the 5s as they tried to do originally, but couldn't do it when the state decided to drop the Loudoun teams in here. One thing to keep your eye on, I think, would be the Hayfield Hawks, whose enrollment is going to continue to drop because of this redistricting to South County. They're going to be a Division V school, and I think there's a very good chance that they might wind up in the national district in the next scheduling cycle. I mean, their location gets kind of a rough situation because they're very close to Lee. They're very close, of course, to South County, which they have a natural rivalry with in the Patriot District. But at the same time, I mean, you have Mount Vernon over in the National, and that's just a hop, skip, and a jump away, basically. So,
what kind of vibe do you get, though? Do you think? I mean, a lot of schools are redistricted, and they don't want that move. What's your vibe, and do you think it's good for that school?
I think it'd be great for Hayfield to go to the National. I think they'd be a prime player in most sports in the National District, assuming that most of the sports they've been good in, they're going to remain good in,
right?
Even though they've lost all those people to South County. From a perspective of basketball, you probably want to stay in the Patriot because you're not going to see the same sort of competition in the National night in and night out that you see in the Patriot. And having the opportunity to play Lake Braddock and T.C. Williams really benefited those Hayfield teams that would advance to the semifinals and the regional finals and things like that. So that's something to keep an eye on. And also the Liberty District, within their district meeting, voted unanimously that they want to keep the status quo. They don't want the Liberty District tinkered with again if and when we hit redistricting, which is sort of an interesting point because both Woodson and Langley are two schools that are always sort of teetering on the brink of being a 5 or a 6. So depending on what happens with them and student population, the Liberty District has said, we don't care. We want to stay the way we are right now. We like it.
And I think they have a good point. I think the teams there are evenly matched. I think the driving distance between them. It's just a good model. It's a good district. I feel like you've got McLean and Langley rivalry. You've got the rivalries throughout Marshall, Madison. Those rivalries that should endure. And Jefferson's new, but they'll pick up real quick. So I think it's a well-built district. They're all geographically pretty close. I think it works out well.
Yeah, I think, we've seen a lot of redistricting talk over the last 2 or 3 years, and there's been a bunch of changes made. So why change it, after a year or two? I think, all of us would like to see if, the 5s and the 6 are not aligned. I think that we'd like to see them, at least, stay the way, they were created this year for at least 3 or 4 years before they revisit that.
Well, what's been called into question, actually, it's interesting you should bring that up, is what the exact philosophy of the region is. Do you look at it every 2 years? Do you wait to do it every 4 years? When do you look at it? We had a situation where South Lakes was stuck in the Concord for a very, very long time and was getting absolutely hammered in most sports. So it becomes a question, okay, you look at a school like Fairfax, it obviously is having its struggles in most sports in the Concord district. When do you then say, all right, geography be damned, we've got to pull these programs out of the Concord because they simply can't compete in most sports? But the bottom line is, and it's been voiced at this meeting over and over again by some pretty sensible people, it's all football. It's all football decisions.
That's the moneymaker.
Right. You look at Hayfield. Hayfield in football is going to have a very tough time competing in the Patriot District because of their school size and because of the redistricting and losing all that talent to South County. You kick them over the National, they're going to do pretty good.
Yeah.
Because, you can count on one hand right now the teams that are going to be able to beat Hayfield in the National District. But at the same time, you look at Hayfield's basketball program, why should they move out of the Patriot? They beat everybody in the Patriot except for T.C. Williams. So and in the past, Lake Braddock, they've had some more success against Braddock this year. So it becomes a football decision. But and I think that a lot of people have a hard time looking at the entire picture. I remember when Pat Lang, the late Pat Lang, was the director of student activities at Fairfax. He actually commissioned a study that looked at the entirety of Fairfax's athletic programs and compared it to the rest of the Liberty District and said, if you put us in the Concord, this is what's going to happen to all of these programs, not just football, but all of these programs. And in a perfect world, that's how you look at it. But obviously we're in an imperfect world because football is the motor for a lot of this.
And also, I mean, you don't know what the VHSL is going to decide. We thought we had a pretty good plan, a couple years back, and all of a sudden the VHSL said, hey, you got to take these Loudon teams. With Loudon, blossoming and growing, and there's kids being taken from different schools every year. You don't know if they're going to decide, hey, oh, we need to pull these Loudon teams out. We're going to make another district just out there, or we're really going to there's already talk about shipping Loudon Valley out to play some of the Prince William teams, and maybe join that district and region. So there's a lot of change going on, possibly in the future.
But I was going to say that's basically a done deal. I mean, they're not going to be in the northern region probably anymore. But I think you bring up an excellent point, and you can see it when these guys in the regional council meetings and in the DSA meetings talk about redistricting. They're tired of it. Mm-hmm. They're tired of this constantly being revisited every single year, and they're tired of working their asses off to try to come up with a plan and then having the state knock them backwards by coming up with another plan.
They're always waiting for Ken Tilley to come in at the end of those meetings and say, all right, if we do this, what's the VHSL gonna do?
Yeah.
Are they gonna stand by it, or are they gonna make their own decisions?
But on the same note, I think the VHSL is tired of it too. Frankly, I think it's something that has drained everybody in the process. I mean, when you go to those meetings, that's the main thing that's always discussed is redistricting. And until this area, the population growth settles down, which doesn't look like with Loudon it's going to be stopping anytime soon with the way they're flipping these apartments into condos.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like it's going to stop anytime soon. Unfortunately, I think we've only seen the tip of the iceberg here. This is going to continue for a long time until Loudon becomes its own region, or like you mentioned, Greg, before in other shows, maybe we have some sort of super region.
Yeah.
And that's this is just, I think, the tip of the iceberg. I think we've got a long ways to go. So if you're not up for some redistricting, maybe
I'll say two things. First of all, as someone who lives in Ashburn now, I now have to drive through townhouses. I'm actually going through backyards, I'm pretty sure, to get to work every day. And the second thing I'll say is the VHSL is your best friend and your worst enemy. They do things that make you real happy. They do things that make you real frustrated. And the bottom line is this. The last cycle of redistricting, when Loudon Valley and Stonebridge were added to the northern region, they screwed the northern region.
Yeah.
They screwed them because they didn't communicate with the northern region and tell them what the situation was. They allowed the Loudon schools to go to them and kind of dictate policy and dictate what they wanted and kind of control the debate. And the northern region was completely caught off guard by it. And I think I get the sense, and this is not having spoken to anybody specifically about it, but there is still that resentment towards the process because of the way it was handled the last time it went through.
I agree.
I think we're familiar with lack of communication sometimes in our jobs. We come across that quite a bit.
Yeah, you better give me my stapler back. All right, let's get to the topics at hand tonight. It's going to be a heck of a show, I can tell you that, my friends. First off, happy National Signing Day, boys.
February 1, man, every year.
I mean, a lot of the decisions are made beforehand, but it's always good to see the kids, sign their John Hancock on the scholarships and get them faxed over. This year had a number of great athletes. Evan Royster at Westfield was a big signee late. I know Keith Payne over at Oakton. A lot of football this year, across the board. So it was kind of good to see. Westfield, they had 5 kids signed this morning. Like I said, Royster was the big guy. He's going to be going to Penn State to play football. A couple of his teammates, David Miller, who's a kicker and punter, he's going to William and Mary. And Ryan Tillman, one of Royster's offensive linemen, who blocked well for him. He's going to be going to Norfolk State. And Kendra Verbanek, a field hockey player, she's going to be going down to Radford
Familiar
to play.
Last name.
Yeah, daughter of Tom Verbanek. And Val Arduini is going to be playing baseball at Binghamton up in New York. So kind of a little bit of a across the board there for Westfield. And in Centerville, some of their football players are going to be playing on the next level. Drew Dudzik decided to go to JMU, Division I AA school. He might see some more playing time there. Bo Warren, third Warren brother, to go play at Virginia Tech. Central Michigan, Colin Miller's going to be going there. And just a number of other kids. Cam Dose decided to go to William and Mary. Smart kid, good school for him to go do that. Tommy Humphreys is also going to be going to William and Mary for Centerville. So
It's a shame.
Lots of kids. We're going to be seeing all these kids going.
It's a shame to see the Dose-Dudzik connection
I know.
broken up.
I know.
Man.
I
don't
thought
wanna see that.
I first saw them going to school together, but then I always thought Royster was going to join Eddie Royal and Sean Glenn at down at Tech.
There you go.
So you never know.
It's like when Montana went to the Chiefs. It just breaks your heart. Obviously, Lucas Caparelli signed with Wake Forest from Robinson. That's an interesting move for him. But I think we all agree that the opportunity that they're going to give him at running back is a very good thing for this young man. I think we also agree that maybe he won't necessarily play running back all 4 years. He's got a bit of a talent on the defensive side of the ball as well. Jack Curtis, great linebacker for Robinson, heading to VMI. And of course, Kevin Campbell heading over to Navy to play a bit of fullback. So one other note from the Patriot District, actually, West Springfield, Peter Lalich, a pretty highly touted kid, hasn't made a decision quite yet on what his prospects might be. Just talked to somebody at West Springfield recently about that. So we shall see where his head is at.
He looks like he may be the quarterback next year in this region from what we saw, this year. Looks like a pretty talented guy. Another talented guy that we've all heard the name a couple of times, especially out of my mouth. I know you guys are loving Keith Payne, man. Couple hundred times, but this guy got even bigger, I think, since the regular season and since the playoff run. He's huge still, and it looks like he's gotten even bigger. But he signed today over at Oakton. He's going to be playing at UVA, and from what he thinks and from what he's being told, it looks like he may be getting a shot to carry the ball for the Cavaliers right from the get-go. You see a lot of guys go to the next level in red shirt. AP Player of the Year, sometimes that helps you out a little bit when you're going over to college. And looks like he's got the body type for it. He's going to start his UVA training regimen tomorrow and go all the way through until it's time to step out on that field. And I talked to Joe Thompson over at Oakton, and he said even if Keith never plays a down for UVA, which won't happen, he'll be valuable to them. And I believe that just because of the type of guy he is. He's infectious, he works hard, and he's got the attitude that you want to see out of a football player, especially a D1 football player that could be the heart and soul of a team. And it looks like he's already starting to take that role on, and he's not even out of high school yet. So we'll look to see big things out of Keith Payne, and I think he's going places. Two of his teammates signed as well. Kevin Houghton, the quarterback who had an incredible game against L.C. Bird in the state semis, was being looked at by William & Mary and Navy and Holy Cross. Went up to Holy Cross recently and talked to the quarterback's coach, the linebackers coach, talked to the running backs coach. They love his body type, and so he's going to be playing for Holy Cross, signed today. And Sean Purcell is going to be playing for Shepherd. And he's going there along with his brother, who graduated last year from Oakton and was an assistant coach with the team this year in their state championship run. And Pat, Sean's brother, still holds the school record for interceptions at Oakton. So those two are going to be going up together. They're real excited about it and should look to really fortify the Rams defense over there.
It's great stuff. That's great stuff. So obviously, along with the collegiate aspirations, we now focus on the high school aspirations of a number of athletes who are now entering their postseasons. District swimming occurred last weekend, and it wasn't without some surprises, I think, especially looking at the Concord District on the girls' side. I think it's going to be kind of considered an upset right there.
Yeah, Chantilly, really squeaked it out right at the end, and they lost by a body length last time when they faced the Robinson girls during the regular season. It was a close matchup. They just barely lost it. I talked to head coach Niels Moore when I was there, and before the meet, he said, so you're telling me I got a shot. That's what he took away from the last time they met. And it looked like the team took that away from the last time those teams met, and they really persevered, pulled through. It was down to the last race again, and they took second to Robinson in the last race, but still had enough team points to pull through, and they did win the district, which is not an easy thing to do with Robinson now in it. On the boys' side, the defending state champion Robinson Rams won the Concord District over the Oakton Cougars, who were last year's Concord District champions. Now remember, both were reigning district champions, Robinson of the Patriot and Oakton of the Concord, so nobody really felt safe. But the Rams pulled through. Drew Finelli was coming in actually injured, had a lower lumbar sprain, what he did from dry land training 2 weeks before the race. and really, I guess he was worried about his kick turns and his flip turns and that sort of thing, even off the start. Hadn't swam for 2 weeks before the race, and had a great race and led the Rams to victory along with teammate Matt Krebs. Had a couple of good races. So the Rams look like they're right on track to protect that state title.
Over in the Patriot District, the West Springfield boys pulled off an impressive win, taking care of Lake Braddock in the team competition. They really were able to use their depth. I don't think they had an individual winner on the boys' side, yet were able to outpoint them. They did a heck of a job in the diving competitions and pulled out the win there. The West Springfield girls lost to the Braddock girls in the team competition, but one name that we should mention is Kim Case, who broke the district record in the 500 freestyle, Sarah Baker's record, and quite an accomplishment there. So the Springfield boys and the Braddock girls are teams to watch coming out of the Patriot, I believe.
Cool. A couple things in the Liberty, I was surprised with. First of all, South Lake's defending girls champions, BJ, finished kind of low down in the rankings, but there's a reason for that.
Yeah, they were bit by the flu bug. Rich Sanders, one of our reporters, was at the Liberty race, and he came back with the report. South Lake's girls not so hot. They came in 7th out of 8 places. And, they're the defending state champions. They lost a lot, and it's something we wrote about earlier in the year. They lost a lot from that team, but I don't think anybody thought they would be coming in 7th place. And I guess a lot of the individual swimmers who had already qualified their times for the next level, some of those were, out with the flu. There was no way they could swim. So South Lakes took a hit team-wise, but the Langley girls did win, and they bested Jefferson. The Langley girls won 431 to Jefferson's 367, and it was the first time that the Langley girls won a district championship since 2003. And looks like Jefferson's okay moving out of that Concord.
There you go. And the Langley girls, we should mention, at one point was the dynasty of the Northern Region. One of the most successful programs in any sport in the Northern Region was the Langley girls swimming team
and
for a
looks
number
like
of years.
They're going back to that level, 7-0 just for the regular season and just cruise to that district title. The Langley boys took 4th. 3rd for the boys were Madison, 2nd was Woodson, and 1st was Jefferson. Looks like Jefferson has taken that swimming out of the Concord and still doing quite well for themselves.
There you go. Looking forward to the Northern Region Championships coming up over the next couple days. Obviously, you look at some of the individuals heading into this thing. Drew Finelli, obviously a swimmer to watch. Kim Case, Alex Anderson from Madison in the 500. There are a number of returning champions this year who are going to definitely make a mark at the regional and then at the state level.
Yeah, the regional championship will be this weekend at Oakmar, right in the Oakton area there, for all those Oakton swimmers to swim right in there. But one of the guys that we should mention, that you said there's some individuals that are going to be doing well at regionals and states. One guy that's really been a good story is Jimmy McLaughlin. He's a Herndon kid that started out with such great promise. Freshman and sophomore year was at the states, did very well, 4th in state, I believe, in his events. And so he had to sit out his junior year. He had surgery on his shoulders, tendonitis. Sat out his junior year and missed the whole scouting thing. That's your year to shine, your junior year when colleges are looking at you. And this is something, Jimmy was one of those swimmers that swam his whole life. So to have to take a step back was hard. He said he enjoyed his off time, but made an improbable comeback this year. And, Herndon's not known for its swimming, but McLaughlin carried them, this time at the Concord meet. He carried the boys to a 4th place finish, which isn't bad for a Herndon team. And he's already qualified his times for the state meet, I believe. So he's looking like he's going to do well in the regions, and looks like one of those guys to look for.
There you go. Well, that's, I think, all we need to say about region swimming. I want to mention now that you mentioned Herndon, maybe we should transition over to talk a little bit about Herndon basketball and some comments from Coach Gary Hall regarding officiating.
Yes, when you talk about officiating, you want to tread lightly, especially right now after having talked to Coach Hall this week. Basically, after the Oakton game, I was there. I got a chance to speak with him, and he expressed his frustration with the region officials and the way that his team has been treated. As we know, Herndon is off to an incredible start. I believe they're 15-4 and they're 9-0 in their district, and it looks like they're going to remain undefeated if they can get past Westfield Tuesday night. But it's funny that we mention Westfield because I believe Coach Gary Hall has a point in what he's saying. He believes his team is being scrutinized by the officials more closely. That last Westfield game, I believe his theory holds water. There was a foul called on 15 straight possessions in the last Westfield-Herndon game. It was a very intense game. Fouls were called, but it's not just that. Against Oakton, 28-15 was the foul differential. That's almost double. So, Gary wasn't too happy that, the story would be going in print. That's the way things work sometimes. When you talk to a coach or a reporter, you have to do, your job and report to the public and serve that community. If it's any consolation, I think he's got a point, guys. I mean, I was at that Westfield game, and I think they are getting more heavily scrutinized.
And that's a good question, Jeff. I mean, when you talk about the scrutiny a team like Herndon may or may not be facing from the officials, is that a byproduct of them being a successful team, or is it even a byproduct of having a player like Scotty Reynolds on the team where they even get more of that intense scrutiny because they have a star player?
I mean, if you look at, I think the professional ranks, people always say like the stars get preferential treatment from the refs.
Mm-hmm.
They get away with calls that maybe other players wouldn't, or they get to the foul line a lot more. And usually when coaches kind of sound off, after the game, it's to get something from the officials. It's to say, hey, look at this, for next game. Maybe it's something that to work on, and the officials will go lighter on them. Maybe the officials go the other way and say, hey, this coach, a coach is complaining. He's just, maybe it's fair, maybe it's not. But I think what Coach Hall is looking at is just consistency, like BJ was mentioning. I think in that Westfield game, I remember watching it on TV, and Joey Kamadi who was calling the game, saying something about in the first half, the referees weren't blowing the whistles at all, and then the second half, like we just said, 15 straight fouls. So that's not really the consistency you're looking for if you're a coach, because you don't know how to tell your kids how to play. If you're going to be a physical team and the refs aren't going to call the fouls, you're going to keep being physical. But if the referee's going to blow the whistle every time you try to take a charge or to go for a rebound, then you're going to be seeing your kids sitting on the bench and not out on the floor where they're supposed to be scoring and playing good defense. So. I suspect them just, emotions got the better of Coach Hall in this situation. The playoffs are coming up. I'm sure, emotions are going to be running high for a bunch of coaches in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, and it's a good point you make. I mean, maybe Scotty does get some calls, but I think there's some merit in one of Coach Hall's points is maybe not enough, because he was at the line 12 of 13. He shot 12 of 13 against Oakton, so it looked like he got his due there. But Scotty's the type of player that can play through being fouled. So sometimes it looks like it's not, and it is, and it's even worse. Maybe it's that hack-a-shack mentality almost. I know, but I think there's some merit there. I think the theory holds water, and hopefully we'll see that change.
Well, there you go. From one marquee player, Scotty Reynolds, to another marquee. That's no fair. I thought I had the coughing thing.
I think I just got the bug there, Greg. Thank you very much.
That's great. It's an on-air infection.
Wow.
That's amazing.
We're actually giving it to all of our viewers.
That's right.
Ready?
Don't turn off your television, Jan.
Scoot over.
You're fine. From one star to another, at least a potential one, a kid by the name of Kenny Obi, a 7-foot post player, native of Nigeria, enrolled at Edison High School. The question is, will he actually suit up for the Edison boys basketball team? His eligibility is sort of in question for high school athletics. It's something that Director of Student Activities Martin Grimm has had to kind of go back and research. There's some international issues at stake. It's an amazing process. Where it stands right now is they are collecting information to try to prove his eligibility. If they prove it, this could be a very big deal for the Northern region. This is a 7-foot-tall post player. NBADraft.net has him as one of the top young prospects out there. Unbelievably long arms, they say, and a great defensive ability. This guy could be a game changer if he plays. And I know that you had some opinions about whether he should even play.
Yeah, Nigerian-born kid is what we know about him, and that's pretty much all we know about him. We don't know his age. He's listed on that website that you mentioned as 18 years old, I believe. So it's hard to do the research, but I wonder what kind of research you can do in that situation when somebody comes over from another country. But I don't have anything against them for that. My family is immigrants. My father's an immigrant. I don't have anything against them because of that, okay?
I think we're all immigrants when it comes down to it.
The only problem that I do have is at what point are we in the season? I don't have a problem if he plays next season, but we got 2 games to go in the regular season. We have played a regular season schedule. We have seen the other teams and what they have. We have seen whether we played this team when this guy was injured and out or whether he was in and played. We've seen pretty much everything in there. So I don't think it's the spirit of the game and I know this is not Edison's intent, but in one sense to bring in the ringer. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's pretty much what's going on here. It's going to change the region. It's going to change the shape of what everything looks like. No one's seen him play. No one knows what he's actually capable of. And frankly, he's 7 foot. So he's going to be capable of a lot.
He's just going to stand there and keep his hand in front of the basket.
One point I've heard made, and I think is a good point though for the other side is this wouldn't be a big deal if the kid wasn't 7 feet tall. And I do believe that does have some bearing on how heavily scrutinized he is.
Right. When we were talking about we can't find paperwork for the kid. If he's 18 years old, he should probably already be out of high school. Like I said, timing is wrong for this. You can't. I mean, if this was 2 months ago, where they had some more time to kind of go through steps 1 through 432 to find out, if this kid was merited a spot on the team or not. But right before playoffs, where he can change, the impact of the whole landscape of the Northern Region playoffs. I think it's the wrong time to do it.
Well, as Coach Franklin McMillan said for Edison, if he was 6 feet tall, no one would make a question about it. So,
but because he's 7 feet tall, we should put him in there.
Foot makes a difference, man. A foot makes a big difference in basketball.
Well, there you go. There you go. All right, keeping with basketball, college rankings are out, boys. And I got to give props to the coaches poll and the RPI for having the good sense to keep those struggling Maryland Terrapins in the poll.
You call that good sense? I think we hear a Terp speaking on this.
Indeed. It's a sad situation.
But yeah, I mean, look, they've had some misfortunes, but they've had their good years too. I don't think they belong in the top 25. The AP's got it right. The coaches are just giving Gary some love over there, and it may be well deserved. Maybe he can work miracles. It's been said that he's at his best when there's a little bit of controversy or someone's lit a fire. So maybe we'll see. Maybe they do respect him for everything he's done. But I just don't think they've got it this year. They lost a big part of their offense in McRae. They shouldn't be in the top 25. There's a bunch of other teams that are deserving, and one of those, Jeff Graham, GW, top 10.
Top 10. I know we looked at their RPI. They're 16-1. Maybe haven't played the toughest schedule, but for GW to be top 10, this must be the second coming of Yankadare. I know, and it's actually interesting because one of our local kids, Hernan, Ricky Lucas, he was Region Player of the Year 3 years ago. Actually went to GW. Kind of, at the time they were a good program, but not ranked in the top 25. And Ricky, being the Player of the Year, probably thought he was going to get some more playing time, and it turns out that he actually transfers to Stony Brook, and I wonder if it's just because the players that they got in there, they've just played great over these last couple, even last year, that he just didn't see the playing time coming, so he transfers, and it turns out that the players that they got in there played them into a top 10 situation, and Georgetown's another team that back in the day, Patrick Ewing, all those guys, they were top 10 year in and year out. Now they're 22. So some teams that we haven't normally seen maybe the past couple of years are starting to inch back up there. Indiana, I know, is in the top 20, top 21. So some good squads from yesteryear are reaching back up there.
And it should be said that and the AP and the coaches poll, Connecticut is number 1, but according to the RPI, Duke's number 1.
And that's good when you see the number 1, because they entered in the preseason number 1.
Right.
So it's good to see that at least they're playing the schedule. And Jeff, we talked about it today in the office. You said Duke always plays a hard schedule, and that's true. I mean, in the ACC, it's impossible to not play a hard schedule. So, but to see the number 1 ranked team not put some cupcakes in there and really work for it night in, night out, personally, I thought they were going undefeated throughout the entire season. I don't know. I didn't think anyone was going to get them.
Certainly not the team that got them.
Right, I know. So, but we see them in the top 10 now.
That's
there.
right.
So, pretty impressive. Another college hoops team we should mention, and I'm coming out of the George Mason University sleeper cell here. Coming out of the sleeper cell to give a little media love to the Patriots down the street. Pretty impressive win over Old Dominion. Actually, very impressive win over Old Dominion. It was over by halftime. They totally destroyed them. Really impressive outings by the whole starting five. They've got a really fast backcourt. Jai Lewis is gigantic. Mike Weiss wrote an incredible column in the Washington Post, basically calling for George Mason to get an at-large bid. He spoke with Coach Larinaga, who was present at the biggest upset in the history of college basketball. So, George Mason, 15-5 right now. They're 5-4 in the conference, 2-0. And 8-1 at home. They protect that home court, and it's something they've always been good at. So, I'd like to see them 35th right now, RPI. I'd like to see them move up. They did receive one vote in the national, AP Top 25. They received one vote, gentlemen.
Does Mike Wise have a vote?
Probably. Big step for George Mason. Big step for Jim Larinaga. Incredible program they've got going there. I can't wait to see them. I know we're not supposed to root, but boy, that's my roots right there. So I hope they get into that NCAA tournament.
So the bottom line is you're trying to tell me that the Patriot Center is good for something other than boxing and
Yes.
Avril Lavigne concerts?
6,500 people were at the George Mason University over ODU win, which we will continue to rub in ODU's face for at least the next time we see them, which will hopefully be in the finals of the CAA tournament, and where we will get our where we'll get our automatic bid for winning the Colonial Athletic Conference.
I think you're going to have that win.
I don't think we are, Jeff Graham, and in fact, if you'd like.
All right, boys. We have to settle this argument only one way, and that's with impossible freaking trivia. Who wants to go first?
I want you to go first since you were on vacation last week.
Great,
Go
thank you.
for it.
Welcome
Exactly.
back, trivia.
Yeah, welcome back, and I got the avian flu.
SARS.
Who was the first player to play on 6 different Super Bowl teams? I'll give you a hint. He played with both the Packers and the Bills. Care to venture a guess? You want I should tell you?
Von Hayes.
Von Hayes actually was a baseball player.
I guess that's not the right answer.
It really isn't. Don Beebe.
Wow.
Don Beebe. There you go.
Impressive.
There you go. First player to be a member of 6 Super Bowl teams. The last one he played for, I believe, was the Super Bowl 32. Actually, no. Maybe it was. I can't.
Is that your handwriting or the Roman
it's
numerals?
Roman numerals. I can't even read my own watch.
Wow.
He played on a lot of teams, though. Trust me on that. Who's next?
Jeff, why don't you stump us?
All right, Greg, this is up your alley. This is NHL, Hockey League.
Bring
Who
it
was
on.
the first player to score in a National Hockey League game?
Well, I see you've taken the impossible and impossible trivia to heart. I'm going to say Gordy
Biggis.
Gordy Richard.
You were close. The last name, actually, Dave Ritchie.
Dave Ritchie.
Scored for the Montreal Wanderers in 1917.
1917.
Yes.
In fact, you weren't close at all.
See, that's not fair because this sweater's from 1918.
Oh, so you weren't.
It's clearly out of my league. Yes, BJ?
Okay, gentlemen. In what sport did Kelly White perform in the Olympics? And what designer steroids did she admit to using, which had her stripped of her medals, and that she is now serving a 2-year ban?
Well, I know the sport.
Oh, do you?
It's track.
It
think
was?
that, yeah.
Is that your final answer?
That's my final answer. I think the drug was VH1.
I'm going to say weightlifting, and it was the clear.
Both of you are close, yet so far away.
Oh, okay.
Track and THG.
The clear. Or wait, was that the cream?
That's the cream.
Damn it. All right. Well, there you go. A clean sweep of mediocrity, if ever there was.
That's why they call it impossible trivia.
On to girls basketball here in the northern region. I think a lot of people are wondering right now about the Oakton Cougars. Could they do the impossible?
Well, it's not impossible because it's been done before. In 1997, And if you mean impossible by sweeping all the way to the state title, that's possible. We'll get to that. But right now, what they're doing is it looks like they're going to go undefeated for the season, regular season. And that hasn't been done at Oakton since 1997. And Fred Priester was there. So he's been around, and he knows his stuff. And he's got an incredible player in Jasmine Thomas. You can't ignore that. She's only a junior. He's going to have her again next year. He's got a couple of players, Ashley Abed, Lauren Burbach, have really been tearing it up for him. They're just an intense team, and they come out and they've blown people out. They've beat teams by an average margin of 25 points a game. So they've really taken it to teams. They haven't held back. The only two close games they had were early in the season against T.C. Williams and McLean, and those were on back-to-back nights, and it was difficult for them to get through that stretch. But since then they've steamrolled. They beat one team by 46 points. So they're not playing around. They're taking this very seriously. Jasmine Thomas is taking this very seriously. I had a chance to speak with her this week, and she said that they're taking it one game at a time. We've heard that so many times, but I really truly believe that her and her teammates have bought into that. Coach Priester, I spoke to him as well. His philosophy, they've broken their season into different seasons, and they've truly stuck to that. Right now their goal is to win the district. Then it's to win the region, and obviously it's to win the state. It's very simple, but it's very complicated when you really think about what you've got to do that. Jasmine Thomas and both Fred Priester, I asked them, you're 19-0 right now. You're undefeated. It looks like you're going to win, the regular season and probably all the way through the district and maybe the region. Their only stumbling block could be Edison, and they both know it. And it's a team, they don't want to look too far ahead, but it's a team that does not scare them, but it's one team that Jasmine Thomas mentioned, talent-wise, is the next best thing.
Right.
And so that's true. Dorena Campbell is actually Jasmine Thomas's teammate in AAU. So they know each other very well. There's two players that would love to play against each other for a region title, and we may see that.
There you go. I had a chance to see the Westfield girls play the Robinson girls on Monday. And I'll say this about Westfield. I don't know if they have the offensive ability to hang with Oakton, but that's a team I wouldn't necessarily want to face because to make up for their lack of scoring, they've committed themselves defensively in a way that's very impressive when you watch that team. They gave up 17 points in the first quarter against Robinson, but then after that, really, really played a strong defensive game, shut down every lane of the basket, kept everything to the outside, dominated the middle, and that's kind of a scary little team in the postseason, I think, when you've got a team that's, if they're able to keep the score low, that can kind of eke out a win with one or two players kind of stepping up and having a good game offensively.
Yeah, I mean, Westfield in the two games that they played Oakton, I believe they were held under 30 points in both games, and the games weren't very close by the end. I think the team that has played Oakton the best, at least the second time around, was Centerville, and that was a 12-point game. So I really think that, like BJ said, Oakton should not probably lose this region tournament. Edison is a team that could take them. If Dorena Campbell's healthy, last year she wasn't, and the Eagles weren't able to move on very far. But Edison's a team. I know TC's been playing really well. West Springfield's always a threat. Madison's playing really good in the Liberty. But I mean, this is a team who's probably aiming for Princess Anne in the state. Princess Anne defending state champions. It could be like last year where one loss may end their season. They may end with a one-loss season and not win the state title.
I think the problem with Springfield is that right now they have not developed that one key clutch player that they've had in years past, like Laura Haskins, like Janelle Dodds before her, to kind of be that person they look to in a big spot. It's not to say they don't have talent. It's just that the talent right now is so young that they've yet to develop into that kind of player. I think, next year after, Springfield is going to be on the cusp of something very special. But I'm just wondering right now, they've got such a mishmash of talent. I mean, if they go like 10 deep, whether or not they're going to be able to throw something on the court that can compete with an Oakton in a big situation.
Yeah, I think you're gonna, when you get to the semifinals, finals of these tournaments, region tournament in particular, you're going to have a go-to player. I think last year, Westfield when they lost in the region semifinals didn't really have that go-to player, and I think that was mentioned earlier in the season that may trip them up, and it evidently did. So yeah, I mean, Jasmine Thomas, Dorena Campbell, Tara Ruffin-Pratt for TC Williams, marquee players that should lead their teams far.
And another marquee player that we shouldn't leave out, and another team that's rolled off 11 straight wins is the Madison Warhawks. Christy Cushney just got her 1,000th point last night in a over 20-point rout of McLean. So Christy Cushney is one of those go-to players, and Madison's that basketball team that's always been around. They've always had a good tradition. And last year that dropped off, and I remember talking to Denise Wojcik in the beginning of the season, and one of her goals was to get back there and be feared. And I think right now they're a team that should be feared. I think they're playing well. They're hitting on all cylinders, and I think they're going to steamroll through all the way until the region.
They're not far removed. 2 years ago, they were playing West Springfield in the region final. So
Right.
I mean, the team that's been there and it's looked like they could probably go back to at least the region semifinals.
Exactly. And one more high school note before we get to our lead-piped, stone-cold 5-star locks for the Super Bowl. Gymnastics has hit its postseason, and the Concord District was the first district to have their championships this week. And how did that go?
Concord District, 3-time champion Oakton. Mike Cooper's been there 5 years. Really kind of rejuvenated that program. Coming over from Lake Braddock where he was a state champion. They've won 3 in a row. And the interesting thing is that he wins Monday with Oakton, and this Thursday he's going to be leading his Woodson Cavaliers, his other team that he coaches, for the Liberty District Championship, and they have a real good chance to take that. So it's going to be interesting when the region championships come around, how he's going to kind of handle coaching that, with 2 teams. But Oakton has had an incredible run, and then I guess on the individual level, Taryn Sanders, who's a junior out there for Chantilly, won the all around. Was helped out. They have a good freshman on that team, Ellie Tora. So Cougars and Chargers look pretty good heading onward.
Very good, very good. All right, boys. Super Bowl. Super Bowl XL. It's a big deal. I was down in Florida last week. I was reading a column by Dan Lebitard in the Miami Herald, and he was bemoaning the fact that the Super Bowl, he felt, didn't have the same quality of star power that other Super Bowls had. And I disagreed with it. I couldn't help but wonder where he's getting off saying that. I mean, you've got the MVP of the league. Hasselbeck's come into his own.
Both of which are not stars.
You don't think Alexander's a star?
Nope, not nationally.
What does not nationally mean? He was the MVP of the league.
Yeah, but
He's a fantasy star.
Yeah, nationally, I don't think Sean Alexander is a star. I just don't. I don't buy it.
Do you think Priest Holmes is a star?
No. I think he's a star. I think we're talking different level of stars. I think he's a star. Maybe I should.
But I think there's certain.
He's not a superstar.
There's certain teams that you can go back in history. I mean, that maybe have one star. I mean, Steve Largent for Seattle. I mean, Seattle's had some good players between this time and back when Largent was playing, but they're just not viewed in that same kind of capacity.
Well, clearly, when you're talking about stars in the Super Bowl, most of the time you're talking about quarterbacks.
Right.
I mean, you're talking about Elway, you're talking about Montana, you're talking about Aikman, and I guess now you're talking about Brady. You're talking about Favre. So I think what he's trying to say is that neither Hasselbeck or Roethlisberger is a star. But even there, I disagree, because I think Roethlisberger is a star.
I think I buy that. I believe Roethlisberger is a star now.
Yeah.
I think he's come off the bat. His second year, he's tearing it up. He's a guy you want to root for because he came from a small college, wasn't picked very high, Eli sort of thing. He's had that overshadow type of thing. I think people can relate to him, and I think he's become a superstar in his own right. But I just, Sean Alexander's an MVP. Don't get me wrong. He's just not the guy that you're going to root for.
No. I agree with that. I think he's.
But Roethlisberger's also playing for the franchise that's won multiple Super Bowls. I mean, when Cordell Stewart was playing quarterback for them, he was a star, and he wasn't very good. I think we would agree.
You bring up a good point, though, which is that the biggest stars in the game might be the Steelers' uniforms and their coach.
Right.
It's
Hold
possible.
on now. You can't forget about Jerome Bettis. Jerome Bettis is a guy that, and I just made this point of guys you want to root for. I think everybody wants to see him win a Super Bowl, and I think if Seattle fans weren't in this game, they'd want to see him win a Super Bowl. This guy is just someone you want to root for. 16 seasons, instant Hall of Famer. he's the bus, man. You gotta love him. You know what I mean? He's a wide load, man. He's shouldering the load, and and we love him, man. He's just a big, lovable guy.
I think you're gonna have
he's
to
never
be-
upset anybody, and he's gotten it done for 16 years.
You're gonna have to be in a Chunky Soup commercial
Yeah.
to be a star.
He needs a ring.
And you have to win a Super Bowl. I mean, when Carolina was in there, everyone said that they didn't have any stars, and even they almost reached it this year, and
They still don't have any stars.
I mean, Steve Smith, people probably don't know who he is. Cincinnati, Chad Johnson, he's coming into his own, but I mean, is he a top 10 star in the league? Probably not.
He thinks he is.
Hasselbeck
Top 10 dancer.
Hasselbeck is not a star. I just can't see it yet. If he wins a ring, instantly he's a superstar,
Right.
because you'll see him on every Wheaties box and everything. So instantly he's risen to that level.
Well,
He's one of those guys that doesn't have the personality to take him there, like a Chad Johnson, who's won nothing. Yeah. And Chad Johnson has been at the Super Bowl all week. He's been interviewed more than some of the players. Mm-hmm. He was even asked to talk trash on behalf of Seattle because Seattle wouldn't do it. But Chad Johnson hasn't won anything, yet he's a bigger star than Matt Hasselbeck. So Johnson is the type of player, and you mentioned him, and Steve Smith, those guys don't need to win to be superstars. Hasselbeck's got to win to get to that level.
Well, all right, who's going to win is the question. Now, I've been trying to figure out a way that Seattle's going to win this game, and I'm having trouble doing it because I don't think that Alexander is going to have a good day on the ground. Not only because Pittsburgh's got that defense, but because he just doesn't run well in the postseason. He's proven it time and time again. So without him, they can't win the game. I'm picking Pittsburgh. If I was making a wager, I would probably lay the 4. I was like 4.5 right now, or 4 points, if I was a betting man. And I just think that Pittsburgh's defense right now is playing as good as any defense I've seen. I think in a lot of ways their defense is playing even better than the Patriots' defense played in some of those years when they made it to the bowl. Their defense attacks, it swarms. You can't run on them. You certainly can't pass on them. And I think that Pittsburgh is going to win this game. And I hate to say it, but it could be one of those games that just gets out of hand real quick.
Being Giants fans, we saw a great defense in Baltimore when we made the Super Bowl, and
I agree.
I thought of all the different ways how we could take that defense out, and by halftime it was Friday the 13th, Part 7.
Look, I mean, you can't take away what Pittsburgh can do on defense, and that's why they're going to win the Super Bowl. I don't subscribe to the notion that Alexander's just going to run all over them. They're not going to be able to do it. We saw what Pittsburgh is capable of. And Greg, I agree with you. I think by halftime it'll be over, and I think anybody who paid for an early Super Bowl ad is going to be happy, and the ones that paid for the ones at the end are going to be quite upset because no one's going to be watching by the fourth quarter. But like we said, I did say that USC was going to trample Texas. So there you go. I'll just put that in perspective.
I think if the Seahawks can keep it close going into halftime, Pittsburgh's had a choke factor in the past. Under Cowher, they've made. I think when they made 5 championship games, they only made it to 1 Super Bowl.
Yeah.
If Ben Roethlisberger reverts to Patriots circa a year ago, where he can't get his thumb in order and he's throwing picks left and right against a Seattle defense that's been playing pretty well, if he makes some mistakes, then it's anybody's ball game.
To me, that's the X factor. Is that I have been waiting for Roethlisberger to implode, and he's played very well these playoffs. He looks like a different quarterback than he was last year. Because, if it wasn't for my idiot kicker, the Jets would have beat him last year.
Yep. Confidence can do a lot for
Maybe
you.
it's the beard. It's ugly, but it's
effective.
helping him out.
Exactly.
Well, like Chuck Norris's beard. There's not a chin under there. There's just another fist.
There is.
It's very true.
There could be another fist under Roethlisberger's beard.
Point, counterpoint, boys. Celebrity skating. Skating with Celebrities, the hit reality show on Fox.
Don't even.
The question is it a sport? I say yes.
Oh, get out of here.
It is a sport.
Get out of here.
How is it any different than normal figure skating? And normal figure skating is in the Olympics. And as we know, any Greek, Mr. Kubarulis should know that if it's in the Olympics, it's got to be a sport.
I can't even believe that I speak to you sometimes. And now maybe one of those moments where I should just not say anything if I can't say anything nice. But no, look, the celebrity stuff with the reality TV. How much time we got left? We got a lot of time? Because I could go on about this for about 4 hours about reality TV and what it's done to television. It's not a sport, Greg. It's entertainment. It's a show. It's it's ratings. It's watch me. It's Jerry Rice with the ballroom dancing. It's Master P with the ballroom dancing. It's William Hung on American Idol. It's all this just crap that they just you package anything the right way, people will watch it. And unfortunately, they did a good job packaging this, and it is not a sport.
All right, fine.
I honestly.
Topic number
possibly
2.
hit you right now.
Detroit, a viable Super Bowl setting, boys?
Dun, dun, dun.
It may be viable, but I don't like it. I mean, first of all, any place that's colder than our newsroom this time of year, you can't have football being played there.
How cold is our newsroom?
I think it's about 46 degrees, probably at this hour.
I'm gonna take the under.
It's usually about 60.
It didn't hit the magic 50, so you wouldn't even be able to hold the Super Bowl.
Yeah, but I mean, who thinks of Detroit? I mean, you can't put one in New York, but you can put one in Detroit.
Yeah.
Greg, what's going on?
BJ?
Yeah, whatever.
Bill Cowher in the Hall of Fame. Jeff, you say yay. I say nay if he doesn't win the big game.
I think he does have to win the big game to be in there. Right now he's 50, 56, 59 wins short of Chuck Noll, who's like, Pittsburgh legend coach.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if he can do that and win a Super Bowl and, erase the choke factor, I think he's in. But
like you said, he's got to win because the thing about Chuck Noll is he's got more rings than Liberace, and Cowher doesn't have any. And that's the thing. I don't care about longevity. I don't care about any of that stuff. There are 2 guys in the Hall of Fame that are there because they couldn't win the big game. Marv Levy and Bud Grant. Bud Grant with the Vikings teams, Levy with those Buffalo teams. So unless Cowher keeps on getting back to the bowl year after year and loses and loses and loses, then maybe he gets that sympathy vote like those knuckleheads got. But if he wins, he's in. If he loses, then, hey, congratulations. You know how to win in the regular season.
I agree,
Ginny.
it's the rings. Belichick can lose his next 50 games and he's getting in.
Exactly.
You're all crazy. Cowher's an instant Hall of Famer.
He's not an instant Hall of Famer.
Instant first ballot.
The only
no
way you put him in the
question.
Hall of Fame is the curiosity factor of seeing how they make the bust
Of his chin.
of his chin. Exactly. All right.
Yes. But when you mentioned Chuck Noll, you mentioned Chuck Noll. I thought you were going to say
Norris.
Chuck Norris. And interestingly enough, Greg,
Yes.
Chuck Norris, one time he took a fully loaded pistol and he played Russian roulette and won.
That's amazing.
Pretty impressive.
Hey, folks, here's what's coming up on FSN. The FSN game of the week this week, girls basketball, Langley at Madison, Saturday at 11, Sunday 6:30, Cox, Comcast, Verizon, Channel 10, and on the web, fairfaxsportsnetwork.com. You can send your get well messages there for me. Thank you, CCI Screen Printing, for all your screen printing needs, 703-978-0257. And thank you, Ford Quality Care Service Center, servicing all makes and models, 703-383-6299. All right, boys. So there you go. Super Bowl Sunday. It should be a great time for all. And
Food and drink?
food and drink.
Not too much drink.
You know what my
Not
favorite,
for you.
You know what my favorite commercial from the Super Bowl is, by the way? The Independence Day trailer. Remember that? When they blew up the White House?
I missed the Bud Bowl.
Remember the Bud Bowls? Man, I just said that.
Dang.
Wow.
Man, me and Joe Green.
That's amazing. Thanks for watching, everybody. Enjoy the Super Bowl.